Hello, welcome to the presentation of Theory School on Tabletopia. In Theory School there are cards and resources, where resources are elements. In Theory School you play a theory that goes at school and learn new proficiencies. You will learn these proficiencies by developing in symbiosis with the other players. Theory School is a competitive game, but where there's a strong focus on positive interaction between players. As a consequence, you will earn points for developing your deck and acquiring new proficiencies, for studying creatures, but you will also learn a lot of points by helping the other players. Initiation setup, I predefined 3 projects for each player, but you can choose other one by a draft here. This is a card for second trimester, third trimester, and final trimester cards. Here is the personal area of each player. Each player has a forest board to play cards, has a creature board where you will study creature. You have creature markers that will go on the creature board. You have activation cubes that will show which cards you activated this turn, and a final project marker for the final turns of the game. This is the draw pile, where you will draw cards when you need. And here is a discard pile with cards that are discarded, where the discarded cards will go. If your draw pile is empty and you need to draw a card, you will shuffle your discard pile, and this will make a new draw pile from which you will draw. You will already have two creatures, 2 cards in your forest, and you have 3 predefined projects for the first trimester, that is the first 3 turns of the game. This is a setup for an initiation game. If you want to go a bit more advanced, you would, instead of having 3 predefined first trimester cards, you will perform a draft to choose the first trimester cards. If you want to go even more advanced, instead of starting with these predefined starting cards, 4 starting cards, you will perform another draft before to choose those starting cards. A game is made of 4 trimesters. The 3 first trimesters last 3 turns, and each turn is made of phases. Each phase can be played in parallel by all players, so you just wait for the other players between each phase. The first phase is the planning phase. It consists in filling your forest with cards. Each forest is made of 2 rows. Each row can host 5 cards. I already have 2 cards in my forest, so I need to draw 8 more cards and place them where I want in my forest. I decide that I will put some earth because I want some earth, and I will put some plants here because I want some plants too. Let's say that for my first turn this is a good plan. Here, here, and here. Everybody does this in parallel, and you should not have a look at the other player's forest when you do this. If you're afraid that people won't respect the rule and might look into the other people's forest, you can always place your card face down and just reveal the cards at the end of the phase. Once everybody has filled their forest, starts the second phase, which consists in playing 1 or 2 columns of your forest. So you choose 1 or 2 columns, up to you. Most of the time it will be 2. And for each column you choose, you play the 2 cards of the column. The card of the top row goes above the column, and the card of the bottom row goes below the column. Basically, activating column might have a cost. The central row is free, but this one, for example, costs a plant. In fact, each column, except the central one, costs 1 resource, that is a resource stored in this column. I did the same previously for all the other players so that I can show you the next phases. Once each player has played his 4 cards, you can go to the next phase, which is the phase on which you activate cards. The cards you can activate are the following ones: the 4 cards you've played, but also the cards that were played and shared with you by your two neighbors. The cards that are shared are the cards that are above the forest, your forest. The cards that are below your forest are your personal cards, for your personal use only. To activate a card, you take a cube, you drop it on the card, and you do the effect that is written below the card. In this case, take one plant and then water. This phase is also a simultaneous phase, so all players would do this in parallel at the same time. I can activate the cards in the order I want. I just need to finish one card before doing the next one. So I can take one earth here and one plant here, and perhaps I would like to go to my neighbors first, so this one provides me one earth and one fire. This one from my neighbors is a transformation effect. It transforms one water into three other elements. So I activated it. I should lose one water and take the three other elements. I might be interested by this card too. This card says you have the choice. When you have two rows, you must choose one of the two rows. And this one says either lose one earth or lose one water and takes what's on the right. I will lose one water and take the two other resources. And to finish with, I will activate my last card. Generally, you want to activate all your cards, most of the time. And to finish with the demonstration, I'll just suppose that my two neighbors have done the same and have put cubes on some of my cards. Let's say we are in this situation. We are now reaching the last phases of the turn. The first thing you want to do is you would like to discard the cards you played this turn. However, there are cubes on them. So what you will do is that you will get back the cubes of your color and return them to your stock, which is here. Then, concerning the cubes of the other colors, you keep them too, but you won't be able to use them. You just store them and they will be worth 1 point at the end of the game. As you won't keep all your cubes a long time, you might run out of cubes. If this would happen, you wouldn't be able to activate all cards. But basically, if you don't spend cubes for something that's not worth it, you don't have to worry about it, especially at the beginning of the game. Note that the cards don't have any more cubes on them. We can discard them. So we take the cards that we played this turn and put them in our discard pile. Now comes the creature study phase. In this phase, you should consider the two cards that are on the top left and the bottom right corner of your forest. You might have just one or none of them. If you have two of them, then you choose one of the two creatures that are drawn and you will study this creature. That is, you will place one creature marker on this creature on your creature board. Here I choose the water dragon. If later in the game I study the other water creature here, as soon as I have put one creature marker on each side of the water symbol, I would get a water. So this would be a water, a plant, an earth, a fire. Any of the four elements I've just cited, or one air. If I have a single card in the top left and in the bottom right corner, then I can only study this creature. Once you've chosen which creature you study, you discard the two creatures at the corners. Then you shift the cards as much as you can, following the arrows that are drawn on your forest. So I reach this stage and this stage here. Finally, the last thing you can do in a turn is realize a project. If you have enough resources, you can learn a new proficiency. Consider this project, for example. At the top of the card is the prize for acquiring this project, for acquiring this proficiency. I need 2 earth, 3 plants, and 2 fire. I have them, so I can spend them 2, 3, and 2. And the card goes to the top of my deck. Here I am, I'm done with my first turn. I can start my second turn when everybody has reached this stage. And next turn we'll start by filling the forest. The only thing you need to do is count the number of turns in the current trimester. Just increase the counter that is here to count this number of turns. Each of the 3 first trimester lasts 3 turns. Once you have done 3 turns of the first trimester, you will start the second trimester. To choose projects for the second trimester, you pick among this deck, which is with 2 dots to show that it's second trimester, and you will perform a draft of 4 cards and keep 3. Let me explain it in details. You will give to each player 4 cards of the second trimester. Each player will first choose 1 card and pass the other 3 cards to the player on the right, because you follow the direction of the small arrow here. And you continue this way until everybody has chosen 4 cards. Then every player has 4 cards. Plus he might have some leftover cards from first trimester that are projects he didn't realize during first trimesters. Each player must choose 3 projects to realize for second trimester among those cards, 4 plus potentially 1 or 2. You will perform 3 turns in the second trimester. Then, at the end of the second trimester, you will perform another draft for the third trimester, but in the other direction. You perform also 3 turns in the third trimester. If you want to go for a more advanced play, instead of the original projects you have predefined in the original setup, you would perform a draft with the first trimester cards. The fourth trimester is a race to finish a big project. You have fourth trimester cards here. At the beginning of fourth trimester, you just reveal the number of player plus 1 final project cards, which is, for example, if I have 4 players, I would reveal 5 cards from this deck. Fourth trimester cards look like this. Then each player will choose one of those revealed projects. The player that chooses first is the one that collected the more activation cubes from their neighbors, and the second would be the second according to this criteria. The final project cards work this way. At the end of the turn, you can either realize a project that you didn't realize during the previous trimester, or you can progress on this final project. Each step has a cost. You must do the steps in the order indicated. And at the end of the turn, the player or the players that are the most advanced in number of steps on this final project will gain 1 resource that is not air, so any of the 4 other resources. If at the end of a turn, 1 player has finished his final project, this triggers a game end. First, everybody has the last opportunity to finish a project or a step of a project before scoring. At the end of the game, the score is computed this way. Each activation cube collected from your neighbors, they measure somehow your social usefulness, and they each worth 1 point. Each creature marker on your creature board, which is each creature you studied, is worth 2 points. And finally, each project you've realized, that is each card that is in your desk and that has a cost, is worth 3 points. And also each step of the final project is worth 3 points. Additionally, you score 1 point for 10 remaining elements. Here are a few additional rules. First of all, a few transformations are always available to the fairies. They are recalled on the creature board at the top left corner. At any time, you can exchange any 3 elements into 1 water or 1 earth. You can exchange any 4 elements into 1 fire or 1 plant, or any 6 elements into 1 air, and air is a joker for any other element. And here is a small explanation of card effects that are a bit more advanced. In some of the cards you have a ×2 or ×5 arrow. For example, here it means that by just spending one cube, you can either transform one fire into 2 plants or 2 fires into 4 plants. This effect means spend 1 earth and take 1 card from your discard and put it below your forest so you can activate it this turn. This is the same but gain 1 plant additional. This effect says spend 1 plant and draw 3 cards. You can put 1 below your forest and activate it this turn. Also gain 1 earth. This says spend 1 plant and draw 3 cards and keep 2 below your forest. This is the cleaning deck special effect. It means spend 1 fire to remove one of the cards that are still in your forest from the game. Also gain additional resources. The other cards go to your discard pile. This is the water effect. It says spend 1 water to put a cube on a card that already has 1 cube. This is the only way you can activate twice the same card. Also gain 1 fire. This is the water effect. It says spend 1 water to put a cube on a card that already has 1 cube. This is the only way you can activate twice the same card. Also gain 1 fire. I didn't mention this during the explanation, but at the end of a turn you can realize several projects at the same time. If you do this, it might happen that at the beginning of a turn you might have no ongoing project. If this happens, you would choose 1 project from the cards that were discarded at the end of the draft that happened at the beginning of the current trimester. If you are in the initiation game and there's no discarded project because it was predefined projects, then just draw 1 card randomly from the first trimester deck. If several players are in this situation, the most useful theory, that is the one that presentation has the most activation cubes gathered from her neighbors, choose this first.